Hello, I'm Rebecca Goodchild. I'm a librarian at Sacramento City College. I'm one of the two co-directors for the sub-awardee grant from LibreText. Antonio, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi everybody. I'm Antonio Lopez. I'm a librarian at Sacramento City College. We're part of the Los Rios Community College District, and I'm working with Rebecca. We try to share our responsibilities in this project, which is basically trying to help faculty to put together, assemble the basic structure of an OER textbook. And that's what we'll be talking about today, as well as sort of like how the program functions to get to that goal. So I'll let Rebecca take it away.
Okay, so I'll start sharing my screen. I created a few slides for today. Okay, so I gave the link to LibreText. Antonio can throw the link to the slides in the chat if he wants. I made a Creative Commons licensed thing in case anyone wants to use them or edit them. Okie doke. So just basically the grant directors, that would be Antonio and I. Our administrative lead is Kevin Flash. He's the dean of the LRC. That's the head of the library where we work. So everything runs through basically the library at City College for the entire district. Just today's agenda. Let's see here. So what is a course report? Hopefully you guys know a little bit about it before you came, but just in case you didn't, they are outlines of textbook of OERs that faculty would want in their class. They look for OERs that are relevant to them, and then they give us an outline of how they want them be remixed so you can combine different OERs. So I have a couple examples. So this was for Philosophy 300. Basically, this professor included a list of the OER sources right here. So you can see some of them are LibreText, some of them are not, like here's an OER Commons one. Okay, and then ancillary sources are things like YouTube, other free sources that are not OERs, but they're for students to use. They're good resources. They just can't be copied or remixed, but they can be linked out to. And then the second part is that they just combine them how they want. So this professor for Unit 1 wanted these three sources, these particular chapters. You can actually see that they just recompile them. And the goal is LibreText will then take this and remix it into a customized textbook for them, which they have done before. We also have them include some gap analysis. We're trying to, this is Antonio's passion project, trying to get a list of some of the big gap areas that exist, not just absences, but things where there's just poor OER or maybe not common OERs that are easy for people to find. Just as a way to help us know where to include more OERs going forward. You can only remix things so many times, essentially. Another one that we have is a Psych 316, which is a cognitive psychology textbook. So you can see on this one, it's similar. We have these four sources that the professor wants us to use, and they're from different places. Okay. And then this is how she wants them reorganized. She even is very detailed. It's like right here, taking out things, editing it, which I think is really good. I would assume that would be helpful to LibreText to get that level of detail on the remixing. Okay, those are course reports. Okay, so the objectives of our program at City College is basically to help faculty learn more about OERs, even if they don't want to adopt them or don't want to be part of our grant, how they might learn more about it. they might want to know more about it in the future, that kind of a thing. Show them how they can be part of the grant itself. I think a lot of faculty get overwhelmed with OER, and they already have that kind of reader mindset, which they kind of resist because they're used to just buying a textbook, and they don't realize that they can actually get kind of a bunch of different things put together. I think the remixing that LibreText offers is very attractive to a lot of faculty because of that. They don't want to have to handle that kind of editing process. Objectives, of course, save student money. You know, now more than ever, that's very important. Increase academic freedom. A lot of our faculty feel sort of semi-enslaved by textbook companies, and this is a way to give freedom back to faculty about what they teach in the classroom. Gap analysis, and we're also, because we're looking for a lot of OERs directly, one of our goals is, or objectives is to get more OERs from different places into LibreText's library. So essentially, our process is, we want people to be part of the grant, so we have to market it, we have to tell people about it, right? Make sure that people know that the grant exists and that they can be part of it. Developing and maintaining relationships with OER leaders across LRCCD, that takes up a lot of our time and I think is well spent. We've made a lot of cross-campus, cross-college relationships that have yielded a lot of really good OER results. And then we also organize OER institutes across the district. The OER institutes are basically a 3-hour in-person tutorial on what are OERs, how you can use them, some of the repositories, that kind of thing. And then introduction to the grant process. We have everyone go through that before they can be part of the grant. I won't go through all these unless anyone's curious, but basically we do a lot of marketing and collaboration. So both of us are involved in various committees that kind of attack different angles of the OER low-cost issue. We collaborate with other colleges, committees. The OER institutes, we make an effort to have them at each college in the district. There are 4 colleges. I've led OER institutes at each one multiple times. When we first started, before we got the grant, but just kind of getting started, we organized a mini OER conference at City College, so we kind of have an idea of faculty interest level of engagement across the district. We go to a variety of department meetings, division meetings, and make customized presentations for them. So like the business department, here's some specific OERs for you. Here are some ways that OERs might help your specific department, and then actually listen to what they want, because a lot of departments have very different opinions about OER, what they want from OER, etc. All right, and more. Let me know if you have any questions about any of that. Okay, so to be part of the grant, a faculty member, they need to be faculty, adjunct or full-time, so they can be adjunct. Adjuncts tend to max out on their FTE, so they have to still have some FTE left over. The faculty member who participate they work 20 hours and they get $900 for that 20 hours. If that 20 hours translated into FTE pushes them over, then they can't participate if they're adjunct. I know it's probably super boring, but necessary to know. Someone who wants to be part of the grant, they need to have gone through one of the OER institutes. So we have people who are repeat customers, so to speak. They'll do one course report, then they enjoy the experience, they want to do it for their other courses. As long as they've completed one OER institute, then they're free to submit more or participate in the grant further, as long as, of course, their initial work was good. Thinking of which, we have to approve the people who apply, so sometimes there'll be someone who may have not done really well in the first time, so we might not let them participate further. Other times we have a lot of interest in one specific area. So English, for example, has had a lot of participants in the past, which is great, but then we don't really need a lot more of English because we've kind of covered that. So we want to approve all of them in the future. And completion of the administrative paperwork. So the most exciting step for everyone. Our administrative assistant for the LRC, the Learning Resources Center, is amazing and somehow has not strangled any of us in her sleep. So she does all the paperwork, she creates all the PEXs, she communicates with all of the faculty members. It's amazing. Yeah, so that's how you participate in the grant.
Can I just jump in really quick?
Absolutely.
So the PEXs are a specific document that is kind of a contractual obligation that the instructor, the faculty member is committing to do these. So they're signing a contract saying, I'm going to actually create this textbook outline, this OER textbook outline. And they aren't able to have that contract, have access to that contract until they've completed that OER Institute that Rebecca was talking about. So there's a number of steps, and that step of paperwork, the PEX, is especially important because that's where we're really getting their commitment, and that's how we know that they're actually going, I mean, in addition to the motivation that they're going to get paid, now we have something, you know, on paper saying that they're committed to doing that. And I think that that's been an effective way of having people not drop out at the last minute and say, you know, I just don't have enough time, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah, I think it also helps that we have to submit timesheets for the month that it's due before the end of the month. So essentially, they're saying that they are going to work those hours to be paid. And the district's pretty, I think most faculty know that the district's pretty good at getting money back that hasn't been earned, essentially, even though I realize this money isn't coming from the district, but that's has worked pretty well. All right, so the Institute, I cover this kind of stuff here. It's basically what are OERs. Some faculty, they don't know what it is. They don't know what open licenses. They think it just means any online free thing. So we kind of learned that by a fun trial and error. Copyright and fair use, there's a lot of misconceptions. I don't go into it too deeply. I mean, you could have, of course, you could have a whole major in that, right? So I just kind of touch on it, how it would relate to people, how a lot of faculty see it relate. Creative Commons licenses, that one's really important because, as you know, most open license material, it has Creative Commons licenses. So I just want faculty to be able to recognize what they look like. I don't need them to have a PhD in Creative Commons licenses, but just be able to see the logos and be like, I know what that is. Okay? I recently completed the Creative Commons, what is it even called? It's like a certificate for librarians, so I know more about licenses than I did, so I can help them when they get into trouble. I introduce them to a lot of the various OER repositories. We do a couple activities where I basically throw them into the deep end and make them search and hunt through them, including LibreText, just to get a feel for it. They usually get frustrated and they have 20 different tabs open on their computer, but they have a lot of great questions and they kind of get used to that process, you know, hunting for that perfect thing, which I think is great because that's what a lot of their grant time is going to be spent, looking for the actual OERs. And I talked to them about the actual grant itself, how to create the deliverable, which is the course report, and then just, you know, get them started with the really fun times paperwork. Okay, so then the pandemic. So we had 6 different OER institutes scheduled in April. So each one of those 3 hours at different campuses. So it was going to be a rough April, but very positive. And then the pandemic hit, we closed down. So instead, I basically took everything that I was going to do in person and created a Canvas OER course. And I have it linked here in the slides. I put it in Canvas Commons, so anyone can use it, adopt it, edit it if they want. I put it under an open license. Basically, it has the same content as the in-person one. The expectation, sorry, cat. There's a cat on my desk. The expectation would be that the faculty member would go through the Canvas OER course, which takes probably a couple hours. There's videos, there's a few activities where they search for OERs, etc. And then they would attend this 1 hour in-person Zoom session where we would basically kind of go over a few highlights of it, answer questions, go through the deliverables, the course reports, etc. And that actually worked really well, I thought. we had it originally scheduled at different colleges, so the people that we had been collaborating with, they were part of the Zoom. They helped answer questions, which is great because they had more connection to some of the faculty at their colleges. Most of these Zoom sessions are open to faculty across the district, but we found that actually hosting them at different colleges gets a much wider buy-in than just always having it at City College. This is what we've done so far. It's been 2 years, and we've done, how many is that? All of these institutes. Okay, so you can see that they're at different colleges: Sacramento City College, Casitas River, American River College, and then more recently Folsom Lake College. We just made kind of a new contact there, a new OER person at Folsom Lake, so we've been aggressively marketing it there. We've also led a few division or department specific OER institutes. We did a business CIS, one which was great. We have our business department at City College is very, very interested in the ZTC logo and all things OER. We've been trying to get more CTE, the Career Technical Education buy-in as well. So we've had one specific one here at City College, and there was one at AR. Right. And thus far, okay, for all of these institutes, which people get, by the way, flex credit for, which is professional development. I'm not sure what it's called at your college, but faculty have to do a certain amount of professional development on campus. And then all of these, except for the ones at CRC, people got 3 hours of flex credit for it. But we have, by the end, yeah,
sorry,
go for it.
May I just jump in really quick?
Yeah.
For the online OER Institute that Rebecca created, and that we managed a large group of faculty going through that online OER Institute. That was in Canvas. So if you're using Canvas, it is available in Canvas Commons. So if you are a Canvas user and you go into Canvas Commons, you can put OER Institute and you will find the SCC OER Institute. You could put SCC OER Institute, but it's probably easier just to remember OER Institute and you'll find it. And then you can, if you wanted to use that content.
Yep. Awesome. And so I did a quick count yesterday on how many course reports we have completed or should be completed by the end of July, which is it's fast approaching. It'd be about 164 course reports, which I think is pretty awesome. 77 by the end of that are just this summer. So if Antonio and I seem stressed, that is why. Because a lot of people have questions as they go. All right. Okay.
Yeah, so, I guess that's an opportunity also to say there's a lot of communication. There's lots of communication. So, for example, today I sent out an email to the people who haven't turned in their OER textbook outlines, their course reports for the summer, and it's due in 11 days. It's due on the 31st, and today is the 20th. So, I'm frequently reminding people, we reach out to people, we let them, know they can contact us. If they're running into, speed bumps and stuff, we get a lot of questions. We field questions throughout the week from, a large number of people. And, we review the course reports in progress, and we get back to people. So the amount of ongoing communication is, one of the main, I think, factors in actually getting a product that's worth the time and energy and the funding. So that's one of those things that I think can't really be replaced, right? Is you need people who understand what the course reports are about. In our case, we're administering this project, and so we're the ones who are in constant contact with these people.
Yeah, that's good. I don't think I would not be able to do this without without Antonio, first of all. But um, I think our dean, Kevin Flash, is very good at realizing that this takes a lot of actual work, this emailing during the summer, and has been very good at getting us a few hours of being paid for this work in the summer. Because both Antonio and I do not work during the summer. We don't get paid for summer work. So it doesn't get kind of absorbed into the rest of our duties like it does during the rest of the school year. Although we do get a little bit extra money for being the grant directors. Yeah. Um, a couple of some other progress. Gap analysis has exploded. We've basically made a new rubric to track this, which we're seeing if that works. I don't think we've quite nailed a great way to make this very clear and useful, mostly just because there's so many gaps out there. Okay. Other thing is that a lot of faculty, I guess I don't know if this is progress, but feedback from faculty, that a lot of them, they get into it, they find maybe 60, 70% of the content that they would want to teach in their class, they find about 60, 70% of it in OERs, right? And they want the other 30, 40% of it, they want to actually write that content because they couldn't find anything that they liked, or they would have to edit it so much that why not just write it? A good number of faculty have expressed desire to do that, but LibreText, at least through our subawardee grant, doesn't pay for that. So I know that I've tried to help faculty find other ways to do that. So I'm the chair of our sabbaticals leave, our professional leaves committee, which is a sabbaticals committee at City College. So I've helped people use that as a way to explore getting paid for writing OER. And then Antonio is the ASCCC OERI liaison, and they do a lot of grants for that kind of thing. So we're beyond what we're doing with this grant. We try to find other ways to help support faculty to find open license materials and basically reduce textbook costs. Whoops.
And it's probably, you know, in time, I think that Rebecca is describing a larger arc, right? So it's not just LibreText, it's not just a Department of Education grant. In fact, the model that we're using is something that we were already using prior to the Department of Education grant and our direct participation with LibreText. So we had already started to we had actually paid a few faculty to do the course reports when we were still being funded through AB 798. You know, in collaboration with the Cal States and their affordable learning solutions. So there's a lot of different participants and members in this community that's making this stuff work. And when one grant goes away, we're not just going to give up on this model, right? It's still a usable model. It's still something that we can, utilize in order to promote adoption of OER, and even the utility of it to actually create the textbook outline, where then an OER textbook can be remixed. So I think thinking of it in terms of the sort of the broad spectrum, this particular program that we're currently involved in fits into a bigger picture.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, have made a commitment to really establish these relationships across the campus and through the colleges in the district to make sure that there's a foundation going forward, that this will be work that will continue long after this grant is done. And we've established academic senate subcommittees. I mean, I wasn't part of that particularly at City College, but we helped support another sister college with that. And so yeah, we've done a lot to kind of lay the groundwork to really build a lot of relationships with people across the district, definitely. Let's see here. And yeah, any questions? I can go and we can go in a lot more depth about any of this or any other thing related to it. You need the Jeopardy music.
Well, maybe, so I had a couple of questions, and I apologize, I had to step away for 2 minutes. You may have covered this at that time, but what, can you describe the sort of how all these course reports, the data get accumulated? And so what does the database look like, and how is that available for others to access?
So right now we basically, faculty will turn it in. We'll put it in a folder that we have in Google Drive, and then we'll share that folder with LibreText, who then decides what they want to do with it, essentially. This process changes probably every semester. I mean, it's always going to go in a Google Drive, right? But how we communicate this with LibreText changes. We're in the second year. Some faculty just want to do the course report and get paid. They don't really care about the remixing process. Others really love that, really want it to be remixed, in which case we share the file right away to LibreText, and we work together with them on that process to get it back to the faculty member as quickly as possible. Yeah, so a database, we haven't shared it with just random people yet for a variety of reasons. We see it as LibreText's product. So I'd say if they want us to do that, that's fine. We haven't been doing that explicitly yet.
I think that the course reports themselves aren't so much the point at which the information is shared. The course report is a means towards an end. So ideally, the OER textbook is created in LibreTexts based off of the course report, and specifically the textbook outline portion of the course report. And that's where it gets shared to the public, because then it is an open licensed OER textbook that's living in LibreTexts. And that's the point at which it's searchable by anybody with access to the internet. And because of the open license, it can then be reused and adopted and further adapted to other courses and instructors' needs.
Yeah, I'll give you an example of one if you want. So here, I'll put it in chat. Here's one that we had a faculty make, and then LibreText remixed it. It's for an entrepreneurship class, and that works really well. They can have it printed. I know that particular faculty member who uses this, she actually really enjoys the Canvas cartridge. You can just download it and then upload it, and it just populates all the modules in her Canvas course. This particular direct to remixing thing that we do with course reports is relatively new. We've only been doing it the last year. And as you probably could tell from the presentation, we get the biggest buy-in in the summer. So I'd say the majority, most of our course reports haven't been directly remixed yet by LibreText, which I'm sure the pandemic has made that so super easy for them.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking too, as a faculty member, I mean, obviously the remixing is powerful for the particular faculty member who is doing the course report, because presumably they're doing that report because they're invested in that particular course. Mm-hmm. As a different faculty member who might be interested in a similar course or a different course, I think that, right, the list of, like the thing that was at the very beginning of the course report, right? What are all the texts that are out there that can do with this? And then particularly that gap analysis is real. It's really powerful information. I can see why Dell is super excited about this. Anyway, so it's really great information. It'd be nice. We should maybe talk with LibreText about
sharing it more broadly. Yeah.
Well, I think just like getting the data into like a one level deeper, more usable form by actually putting it in a database rather than just a collection of a bunch of Google Docs.
Because it would be very inconvenient to have to search through each document one by one, right?
Totally.
But yeah, if you had a database that I don't know where it would live, right? That's one of the things, right? Because you would want it to be publicly available, and you would want that database to have a promise of longevity, right? You don't want it to be ephemeral, right? So Google Docs probably, Google Drive probably isn't the right place for it. But that it's searchable, that it's tagged in such a way that people can say, oh, well, I'm interested in this discipline. And within this discipline, there's these different types of courses, and then I can browse them. And then I can see, what's that top list? What are those, those items. Now, that gets into, though, what state are you in? What country are you in? So, for example, in California, we have the CID, and the CID will match one course to another, right? So I don't know how universal CIDs are, actually. I mean, I'm ignorant of that. But, that kind of thing where there's a way to say, well, the course that I teach in my country or my state is called this. And in another country or another state, there might be another common title used for it. But then there's this universal identification that allows people to actually find that material. Because otherwise, it depends on what the person thinks the content should be called based on their own experience. And that could result in a failed search.
Absolutely. That's critical to have that universal nomenclature of some kind in order to make it useful. Yeah, no, I didn't mean to say it was easy to do, but it'd be a really powerful thing. Yeah.
So something I put basically I'm a librarian. We make library guides. So I've been kind of creating one. It's not meant to solve all these problems, but when faculty, especially that I work with, ask me like, "Hey, do you know they don't want to come to the OER Institute, or they've been, or they just want like a quick link or something like that," I created a research guide, which basically just lists a bunch of OERs that they can easily just grab and use. Okay, some of them are LibreText, some of them are other things. And when the course reports come in, if there's like a major good source that I haven't heard of, I'll go in and update it. Not always, but when people ask me. So that's kind of, I can actually show you kind of what it looks like. So here's my textbook affordability thing. People can just go over, like business is really fleshed out at the moment. That they can go and like, hey, accounting, here are just a lot of the big ones. Okay. So I'll usually use this and just directly LibreText and just send someone a link or two, like, hey, have you seen this? Very low key. As you can see, there's not, I build it out as people get interested. When LibreText finishes remixing things and we get that more established, it will be happily take over that. I don't want that necessarily to be there. It's not my passion child or something like that, but it's a quick way for me to remember, just kind of like, here's a list of stuff people can adopt right off the bat. Yeah, I also included, sorry, I thought I did this, but the entrepreneurship book that LibreText remixed for one of our faculty member in the chat, if anyone wants to see that. Like I say, LibreText is trying to make things more accessible, which is really great for our campus because we have, I think, an increased attention to accessibility in Los Rios. It's become very important to a lot of people for a lot of reasons. And so they've tried to increase their awareness of that, which I really appreciate.
Right. And that also gets into stuff, not just accessibility per se, like as, ADA accessibility, but also just general accessibility and universal design. Mm-hmm. So I think that's an aspect as well.
Yeah, and we're really involved with the online college, and there's a bunch of attention to the OEI rubric, especially for we're doing the course exchange to the online college. For the algorithm, for other students and other colleges to see our courses, they will pop it up at the beginning of the search algorithm if they have OEI, if they've met all the OEI standards. Yeah, as I'm sure you know.
And once again, but for those of you who aren't in California, you might not know about that. And then if you're not a Canvas user, then that might not be directly available to you. So it does get into, there's a lot of closed systems, right? Sure. And ideally, OER is as open as possible. And I think, the question about, say, like a database, how do you find these reports or how do you find other information? We want to also maybe avoid spending energy on reinventing the wheel. Right. As Rebecca showed, there's an online guide that has this information available, organized by content. Now that's specifically designed that, or Rebecca designed that for the faculty at our campus and our district, but it's available, online. You can Google it. But lots of people have made lists like this, and so it's just mentioning it's like.
Yeah, I feel like there's a danger with OER that it's like you see it and you're like, oh, I want it organized a little differently. So you take on like, I'm going to build my own OER repository, or I'm going to be another LibreText or Merlot or something like that. And then like in a year, you drown in the links and you can't maintain them. And then a new system pops up and you kind of do it over again. I don't know what, it just feels like that is kind of an inherent quality of OER. So I would love LibreText. I know they're amazing. My goal is that eventually that will all be absorbed into them, but in the meantime, when faculty will ask me like a question about it's just kind of easier for me to share them, like the one or two links, than to go hunt and peck all over and be like, what did I send them last time? Who is this person? I get like a billion emails a day. So it's like kind of my cheat sheet until things progress to where they will be.
Well, I think that's a key part of the remixer that's in LibreText, is because if you do have a desire that's similar to something that's already in LibreText, there is no need for you to make your own thing in a different platform, because you can make your own thing right there.
Absolutely.
So
the remixer.
I hope that that's something that'll help LibreText to give it some longevity.
Yeah, absolutely. I know. I think one thing worth noting is that I know a lot of faculty that I work with, they love the remixer, but they would rather die than do it themselves. You know what I mean? So they love that idea that they can kind of make a reader of whatever is free, and they can even go in and edit it further themselves, but they just don't have the bandwidth for it. Whereas I know I'm sure met lots of faculty, I'd say they're probably more in the minority that want to do everything themselves. They really, really kind of nerd out on all of the cool features that LibreText has, and they want to do it themselves. So I'd say the majority of faculty, though, aren't like that. Yeah, that I know anyway, so far.
I think that opens an opportunity, too, for like larger discussion about like what are the best, or most useful models right now, right? Is there a way for instructional designers or some kind of staff, maybe even during this time where campuses are mostly closed down, there might be some staff who can't do the work that they were normally doing. Maybe there's a way to redirect people's efforts so that they could actually be the ones remixing this. I mean, if you think about, we just had this like major crisis, right? And it really impacted higher education. Now, what if we had enough people who were aware of these tools, and they could have said, hey, you know what, we got to shuffle. We're going to, put some teams together, and we're going to remix a bunch of OER textbooks so that we have all this stuff online and available for our students. That would have been a doable kind of a thing, but it required the knowledge that this was out there, and the understanding of allocating personnel to work on that. Now, currently, we're relying either on, you could have your faculty who just want to go out and do it themselves. That's great. Or LibreText staff to do it. And like Rebecca mentioned, that's, what's their bandwidth during the pandemic? None of us are fully aware of how every other institutions are dealing with this on the ground in reality, right? We know what people say, but it's hard to get things done right now. Or some things could be easier to get done right now.
Yeah.
I want to make sure Brian may have a question.
Oh yeah, I just was going to chime in. I think the discussion you guys are having is very important. I think the issue's been that there's been little curation of OER, you know what I mean? And so then it explodes, and then it's hard for finding, things, or discoverability, I think, starts to suffer. And so I think that's where there has to be a balance of you want to have an open marketplace to some extent, but you also, I'm in charge of our program at Kansas State, and I don't even direct people to Merlot or something because they'll just drown, you know what I mean, almost immediately, I guess, in things. And so you have to kind of say, describe to me what you want, and then I will go search, a little
Right.
bit, to see if I can identify something that sounds like what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And so I think there's a lot of potential of LibreText. The current iteration and what it looks like, it's still not super easy, to do that sort of thing. I'm hopeful, that with all the investment that's being made into it, that will become easier. But I think that what you're saying is definitely very true, I guess, in things on some of the
Do you have like
issues. Then outside LibreText, there's like a lot of walled gardens that are being made, press books and stuff. It's really weird, to see that that's happening too. And so I think it's a strange sort of place to be in, but I'm hopeful, that the LibreText platform's getting enough investment into it, and there's enough things that they're trying to build out that it maybe can be, kind of a mega platform, I guess, in things that hopefully most people can move towards and feel like they're being supported and has what they feel like they want or need.
Oh, absolutely. I do think the Remixer tool, and it sets LibreText apart from anyone else. I mean, there is, I think a lot of our faculty love OpenStax just because they can kind of grab and go, but they don't have that, they end up like starting there and then they can kind of like move to LibreText as they get more aware of how they can change things and stuff.
In my context, Pressbooks has a Remixer tool, and people like the look of Pressbooks more. I guess, in things. And so I think that's where LibreText is. Now, LibreText has some functionality, I guess, and Pressbooks is more book, and so there's a difference, and kind of what the focus is, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But I do know that for certain faculty members, the aesthetic, sort of initial view is part of, I think, where there's going to have to be some overcoming, with some faculty, I guess, and things, or people that might adopt.
Yeah, definitely. That's a factor with a lot of faculty. I wanted to ask, do you...
Oh, yeah, go on.
Sorry, do you have someone at your campus that can help with OER-related questions with faculty, or is that you?
We have, we generally, so I'm in nutrition, I guess, first, so I'm not in the library. We do have definitely a partner, or partners in the library that work with us. The downside for us is that they've turned over a lot, I guess, in our time that we've had the initiative and things. And so we definitely work with whoever our partners are, but oftentimes we're like trying to bring them up to speed, and get them a sense on, what's happening and things. And
so, I totally get that. There's a lot of burnout with OER people.
Yeah, so it's not been, as ideal, I guess. But yeah, that's we're definitely a big part of what we do, I guess, in things, and we need their, sort of involvement and expertise in things, but they have been ones that have not been as stable as. I have another colleague that's in math, that's with me. He's one of the founders, along with another library, another library faculty member who retired, and that was fine. I'm not blaming her for retiring, but a lot of the other ones have. After she left, and she's definitely our favorite one, that we've worked with, I guess, and things, but there's been a lot of turnover since then.
So it seems like there's like, in terms of discoverability, because you use the term discoverability, and Rebecca and I are librarians, so we're all about discoverability.
Right.
On one hand, I think what Rebecca is saying is that having a human being who's can act as a guide, it kind of enriches and adds value to discoverability, right? But when you're talking about like automated discoverability, then I think definitely when it comes to LibreText needs a universal search function. It doesn't have one, right? Currently, you have to browse through the content, right? So you have to know where to click to get to the right menu to find the content you want. That can be very frustrating. So there's definitely room for improvement there. I think that there's interest in having, I've heard that there's interest in having more of that, like that universal search window for LibreText, so that it's not as partitioned. Currently, the way it's designed, it's like in these separate disciplinary silos. So there's room for improvement there. And I think your point of bringing up Merlot is an excellent example. So 8 years ago, Merlot was, the biggest thing, out there. and now it looks like a dinosaur, right? So, I mean, unfortunately, it's one of those things where the technology and with, information-based content, things become obsolete very quickly unless there's like really a lot of attention to, as you said, curation. And curating information is very challenging, especially if the technologies and the content are changing rapidly. And the last few years has seen an explosion in OER. Dorte did put into the chat window that there is a search function, but it will be greatly improved in the future. So that's really something that I think I and my colleagues definitely, would be looking forward to, because I know there's some frustration with that.
I think you bring a good point about
excellent point.
Yeah, the human being able to definitely add, to discoverability. I just think that so many people are programmed now to be able to do that automatedly. I guess they're either uncomfortable, or they that's one step more than they're willing to take. I guess, in things that.
That's a working with faculty beyond just like the basic kind of getting them just a basic understanding of what OER, what they are and things like that. The biggest one is they don't like the frustration of searching for stuff. I mean, it honestly feels like a library orientation when you tell students like go get an article from a database. Faculty, they kind of respond the same way as students. They're like, oh, I can't just grab it and go. What? I mean, sometimes they can, right? But it's not most, I'd say most people can't, or they want something more nuanced. Yeah.
But also, just because you're able to search and get a list of results and then pick from them doesn't mean that those are the best results.
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
For your purposes. Because, we go into automated searching with preconceived notions based on the terminology that we've chosen and what we think the scope of our search is. And oftentimes the content that we could be searching is very different than the scope that we've self-selected, without knowing that we're overlooking a lot of relevant content. And so sometimes we might do an automated search, we find stuff, we say, oh, that's what I want, grab it, now I've got it, I'm good, I'm done with the search, I'm not going back. But in fact, it may be the case that the thing that you grabbed wasn't really the thing that you needed. So
can I jump in for a second?
Please do.
So I think when it comes to, you're touching a very, very important point here. Of course, there's so much material out there and it's hard to find. One of the things we're working on, or that is the strength in LibreText, is we have the pages indexed on a page level, so a subject level rather than a book level, so that when faculty go in, they are not searching for, an organic chemistry book. They're searching for distillation specifically, or something, a subject. And the search function that we're building on now will be able to, the pages will be indexed so that you can go in and search for specific topics and specific figures in your area, so that it'll be easier to find this content. So it's a very good point, and I think it's a very crucial point at the LibreText, in that we have that searchability on a page level rather than a book level, because so much of the OER content that is out there, you just get a general chemistry book, or you need to find the specific topic that you're interested in, and you don't want to browse through books to find it.
You don't want to tell students like scroll down to the 231st page of the PDF and start reading there. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Or to your point about remixing, though, you also don't want to, look through a whole book. Like Dorte say, if you want to remix and you want that specific topic, to add into your course. Sorry, what would you guys call the thing you guys
Course
made?
reports.
Huh?
Course reports.
Course reports. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can go and you can pull, you can find it quickly and then say, okay, here's where I'm going to pull that from, versus
right. Well, I think
the whole book. You know what I mean? I guess, and things, and say, okay, here's the one that I like. I guess.
Yeah.
Read 7 books or whatever it is.
I think paying people has really helped. I realize that payment in and of itself is an incentive, but I think a lot of people, they see what it will actually take them to go through it. So not just to grab stuff to be like, but to actually review it and be like, I actually would consider this valuable for my students to read. That just takes a lot of time, especially when you're dealing with a lot of sources. So I think compensating people for that has definitely helped increase participation beyond just the incentive of money, because it is work. Yeah.
I think that also building community, right? People like to be members of communities. People like to be not everybody. Some people just like to, go it alone. But a lot of people are very motivated by the opportunity to be a member of a team, to be a member of a community, to feel like there's a kind of support group around them as they're doing something. That's exciting, right? It's like you're part of a movement. And so, we've brought so many people in to adopting OER through our district, the Los Rios Community College District here in California. It's centered in Sacramento, the capital of the state. And so, it's very exciting that we have so much adoption. We do only have a few more minutes. I don't know if there's another session after hours. I imagine there is. So I know we want to make sure we're doing that. But I think that also going back to Dorte's point about being able to search at that content subject level rather than the book level, I think it can be a both and, because there will be people who do just want to search for a book. And then maybe they want to take that and just adapt one small portion of it. So I think it's very much a both and proposition, where a search tool is always going to define how people search the content that is, defined by the parameters of the search tool. But a search tool can also provide flexibility so that more people can search by the way they want to search, right? So when you have people from any part of the world coming to this tool, they should have ideally a variety of options of at which level of granularity they want to search for their OER.